Every stone that was thrown at you actually strengthened your foundation. When they stepped back, they saw that where they thought you had been destroyed, you grew even bigger and took root. Those who underestimated your strength are now standing and watching your stance with admiration. Write 22 in the comments now. Don't just be a spectator, be a part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and join us, because every hand that tried to destroy you turned into a miracle that strengthened you. You are still here, still breathing, and still on your way. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a stormy coastline on a night so thick with fog that even the stars refuse to shine. Out there in the darkness, every lost ship is searching for the same thing, a beam of light, steady and unwavering, that lets them know they are not alone. You, chosen one, are that lighthouse. The moment you open your mouth and speak, it's like a sudden flash slicing through confusion, signaling to every drifting soul that a safe harbor exists. It isn't noise that gets the world's attention. It's the silence that falls right after your words land. The way the air seems to settle. The way hearts beat just a little faster because they can feel that something real has entered the room. When God gives you a message, it isn't about volume or spectacle. No, it's about resonance, a sacred vibration that hums just beneath the surface of things, rearranging every molecule in the atmosphere. You might feel like you're just having a regular conversation, maybe just sharing a thought or two. But what you don't see is that the universe is working in that moment. Heaven leans close. Angels pause their wings mid-flight. Every hidden motive, every plan whispered in darkness is suddenly exposed by the light you carry in your voice. It's as if the Lord Himself has flipped the switch on the whole scene, making truth visible and falsehood impossible to hide. There's a holy stillness that enters when a chosen one speaks. Folks who thought they were running the show, who had practiced every word, memorized every excuse, lined up every argument, now find themselves at a loss. Their confidence melts away like wax before a fire, and you see it in their eyes, that sudden unspoken realization that the script has changed, and they are no longer holding the pen. There's a hush that settles, thick and undeniable. Even the air gets heavy, like creation itself is waiting to see what comes next. In that instant, you become the vessel God pours His wisdom through. And it's not just words, they're rivers that carve out new destinies. In those moments, time seems to slow. People forget what they were about to say. Some stare at their shoes, others fumble their hands, searching for something solid. It's the same everywhere, a boardroom, a family table, a church pew, even on a street corner. Suddenly, every heart in the room is tethered to your voice, waiting, wondering, because they know, deep down, that what's being spoken is bigger than any ordinary conversation. It's a holy interruption, a divine appointment written long before anyone walked through that door. Sometimes, the enemy will try to convince you that your words don't matter, that you're just one person among many, that your story is too small to make a difference. But you know better. You've seen it with your own eyes. How just one statement from your lips can shatter old agreements, how truth can break chains no one else could see, how honesty spoken in love can turn a hardened heart back to God. It's not magic, it's not even persuasion. It's the Spirit moving through you, using your willingness to be real as a key that unlocks the impossible. Want to see miracles come alive? Subscribe and witness the wonder in every story. It's like being at the center of a ripple in a still pond. You might drop just one pebble, a simple word, a testimony, a truth from your heart. But the waves travel further than you ever imagined. You watch the effect move outward. At first there's surprise, maybe even resistance, but over time, what began as a tremor becomes a transformation. Family secrets come to light. Old wounds begin to heal. People who never listened before start to hear the song of hope ringing through your testimony. Enemies are disarmed, not by argument, but by the irresistible force of authenticity. You become the living proof that God can use the most unlikely voice to start a revolution. This is the power of being chosen. Beloved, when you open your mouth with integrity and faith, you're not just changing minds, you're shifting destinies. Your words carry the weight of all the prayers you've ever prayed, all the tears you've ever cried, all the nights you've spent in quiet surrender, asking for strength. That's why, when you speak, the very air changes. That's why people stop and listen. Why the plans of the wicked unravel. Why those who trusted in their own schemes suddenly lose their footing. You are the instrument through which heaven sounds the alarm and also offers the rescue. Let the world rehearse its lines. Let them cling to titles, strategies, and positions. In the end, it's not the performance that moves mountains. It's the voice willing to speak what others fear to name. It's the person who is brave enough to break the silence, to say what must be said even when their knees are shaking. The truth is, you were born for this. All your trials, all your valleys, all your lonely places, they have prepared you for moments like this, when you stand in a crowd and yet somehow stand alone, carrying a message bigger than yourself. You don't need anyone's permission to shine. You don't need a stage, a pulpit, or a crowd. All you need is the courage to open your mouth and let God's truth flow out. The world has seen enough empty words, enough promises broken by fear. What the world is starving for is a word spoken in season, a word that cuts through the fog, like the beam of a lighthouse guiding lost sailors home. That is who you are, a living lighthouse, steady in the storm, unmoved by the winds of doubt. Some will love you for it, others will fear you for it, but all will remember the moment you spoke, because something shifted inside of them. A door opened, a chain snapped, a lie lost its power. You might never see the full harvest of your words, but rest assured, the seeds you plant are eternal. God wastes nothing. Every syllable you speak in faith becomes part of a bigger story, one where freedom, healing, and hope are not just possible, but promised. So keep speaking, chosen one. When you feel the Spirit nudging you, don't hold back. You are not here to blend in. You are here to break through. Let your voice be the trumpet that signals a new day, the gentle rain that softens hard ground, the spark that sets dry bones dancing. Remember, it is not by your strength, but by His Spirit. Trust the anointing on your life. When the atmosphere shifts, when silence falls, when the world holds its breath, know that you have stepped into your assignment, and all of heaven is backing you up. And as you walk out of that room, don't be surprised when people look at you differently. Don't be shocked when their plans start to unravel, when the ones who used to stand tall now fumble for words. You are carrying something holy, something this world cannot explain or contain. Every time you speak, you are writing new lines in the story of victory, and no power in hell can erase what God has written through your voice. Picture your life as a quilt, lovingly stitched by a master hand. Each patch, whether dazzling with color or worn at the edges, has its place in a pattern far too grand to fit on any human blueprint. You may have believed that you were choosing your steps, meandering here, and pausing there, but in truth, every movement was a thread, being woven into a design older than the stars themselves. Nothing has ever been random, not a single detour or delay. You are walking a path mapped out by a wisdom so wide it holds the oceans, so deep it anchors the mountains, so gentle it knows when to let a wildflower bloom between the stones. When the moment comes for you to speak, it's like a bell being rung from a hidden tower. You might feel a quiet stirring inside, like the wind changing direction, or the faint scent of rain before a storm. It's destiny leaning in, whispering, "Now." Suddenly, you're no longer just yourself. You're a vessel, a living letter read aloud in the courts of heaven and on the stages of earth. The words that leave your mouth are not merely conversation. They are coordinates set by an eternal navigator. Your presence in that room is no accident. Your timing is no coincidence. Your story is no afterthought. It's as if your soul has been sitting in God's orchestra, waiting for the conductor's baton. At the appointed hour, the baton rises, and you find yourself stepping forward, guided by music only your spirit can hear. When you open your mouth, it's not simply your breath that moves, it's the wind of heaven, filling your sails, sending you across waters that once looked impossible to cross. Others might see only an ordinary day, but you know deep down that eternity itself is leaning on its elbows, watching what will unfold the moment you speak. There are people who have built whole strategies around you. They have made plans, drawn blueprints, stacked expectations like dominoes, certain they know how the story ends. But the instant your voice fills the air, it's like sunrise after a long night. The shadows that danced in the corners flee, the scripts they held tightly begin to unravel, and even the most confident lose their place. It's not just the words, it's the authority behind them. It's the sense that something larger is moving, something that doesn't answer to earthly timelines or human ambitions. Don't just read the stories, experience them. Subscribe and step inside. You have seen this yourself. There have been seasons when you felt delayed, misunderstood, or sidelined, like you were sitting in life's waiting room, watching others get called ahead. You might have wondered if your moment would ever come, but now you understand. Every pause was a page in the story. Every detour was a holy misdirection, leading you exactly where you needed to be. Every setback was a setup. Every silence was God tuning your instrument, getting you ready for the song only you could sing. When your message finally arrives, it does not stumble or stutter. It does not knock politely at the door. It sweeps in like a river breaking its banks, unstoppable, undeniable. You feel it in your bones, the rightness of the moment, the holy hush that falls when destiny takes the microphone. Others may fumble for their notes, but you find that the words you speak have been stored up for years, gathered in the quiet, matured in the shadows, polished by patience. You realize that all the waiting was not wasted. It was preparation for this exact hour. It's almost as if the world tilts a little. Those who thought they knew you, who thought they held your future in their hands, are caught off guard. Their plans, which once looked solid as stone, suddenly dissolve like sugar in water. Their confidence melts, not because you shout or boast, but because the wisdom you carry comes from a place higher than any platform, deeper than any well of knowledge. They sense, even if they cannot explain it, that you are moving with a current that does not belong to this world. There is a power in timing, beloved. The greatest truths are not just what is said, but when and how they are revealed. Your life has become a testament to that principle. Like a seed waiting for spring, you have been hidden, growing in secret, watered by invisible rain. Now, at the season appointed by the author of all things, you are blooming, not by accident, but by design. People marvel at your courage, your peace, your clarity, but they do not see the years spent underground, roots stretching, trunk strengthening, ready for the day you would rise. And when you rise, you do not come empty-handed. You bring with you treasures found in the dark, wisdom drawn from sorrow, faith carved out of disappointment, love shaped by loss. These are the gifts that shine brightest when the spotlight finally turns your way. You do not have to prove yourself. Your journey is your testimony. The authority in your voice is the signature of the divine, written in every scar, every tear, every answered prayer. Others may try to steer you, to shape your destiny with their own expectations, but they are building on shifting sand. The real map of your life was drawn in secret places, with ink invisible to human eyes. The story you are living is not authored by critics or bystanders. It was spoken over you by the Creator before you ever took your first breath. This is why their plans fade, why their blueprints crumble, when your time comes to speak. They are forced to acknowledge, whether they admit it or not, that there is a purpose at work in you that cannot be managed, measured, or manipulated by anyone else. There is freedom in knowing you are guided by something higher. It means you can rest, even when you do not see the whole road ahead. It means you can walk into every room with quiet confidence, knowing that the one who called you has already made a way. It means that when you finally stand to speak, when destiny presses play on the song inside you, you can trust that every note will land exactly as it should, because the composer is still in control. Some will resist your message, some will deny your authority, some will try to explain away your influence or distract from your calling, but none can erase the mark of destiny that rests on you. None can silence a song that was born before time began. When you speak, it's not only for those who listen, but for the generations that will come after. Your words become a legacy, a North Star guiding others home, a promise that the light you carry is stronger than any darkness they will ever face. So walk boldly, chosen one. Know that every pause in your journey was planned with love. Trust that every moment of silence was a note in a symphony still unfolding. Step forward when the Spirit says go, and speak with the authority that comes from knowing your life is not an accident, but a masterpiece in motion. The world will recognize it, even if they cannot name it. You are carrying a message timed to perfection by the hands that spin the planets. And in your rising, others will find the courage to rise as well. The realization settles in slowly, yet with an authority that brooks no denial. When you recognize yourself in these words, it is not coincidence, but confirmation, a signal from realms that operate above everyday logic. The ones who once spoke casually now weigh each phrase as though every letter could set off a cascade, aware that anything carelessly uttered might circle back with unforeseen gravity. In your presence, words are handled with care, and conversation itself becomes a dance of intent. Some voices travel no farther than the ear, but yours is more like a current that carries change along with it. Even the simplest exchange can cause a reassessment in the minds of those who thought they'd categorized you for life. The ground beneath their logic suddenly shifts, and what was once certainty is now the unknown. They replay that moment in their mind again and again, turning it over, hunting for comfort in details, and coming up empty. No one is immune to the aftershock. What began as a single exchange begins to multiply, spreading through relationships and networks. Plans are paused, second thoughts surface, and alliances wobble as people realize the dynamics have been reconfigured. There are meetings after meetings, whispered agreements, and silent nods of recognition that what was once stable is now fragile. Even those who tried to paint you as the villain start to see the truth. They can't outrun the new script. It's not that intrigue is new to you. Plots and plans have swirled behind closed doors for ages. What has changed is the level of awareness. Unseen hands, unspoken alliances, all now come into focus. The tangled web that once seemed so cleverly spun begins to unravel, not because of confrontation, but because its threads can't withstand the weight of unveiled purpose. What they never expected is that your strength comes from outside their reach. The laws they invoke don't apply in your sphere. The strategies they learned fail to function. Instead of a game played by familiar rules, they find themselves lost in a landscape where intention is king and truth is immune to disguise. They are forced to recognize that authority here isn't granted by hierarchy, but by a deeper connection to what is truly unshakable. And then comes the moment of reckoning, when a few words open doors they never even knew existed. Long-buried secrets, concealed alliances, and hidden motives all become visible as if someone has switched on a floodlight in a locked room. It's not accusation that undoes them, but revelation, an exposure so complete that their best efforts at subterfuge simply evaporate. What truly unsettles your adversaries is not your knowledge, but the power of your presence. You interpret what others miss, sense the underlying emotion, and read the intentions beneath silence. To you, the game is not about winning or losing. It's about recognizing the story under the surface and knowing exactly when to change direction. While they chase patterns, you see the whole mural. The attraction here is not just about intellect. There is a magnetic draw to the clarity you exude. People who thrive on confusion find themselves exposed, unable to maintain their illusions. The very atmosphere seems to recalibrate, making it impossible for falseness to linger. The only option left for the insincere is retreat, and those who remain feel the pull towards something genuine. When you do decide to speak, the effect is total. Every syllable lands with meaning, and a hush falls over the noise of rehearsed arguments. Where others try to make a case, you simply state what is, and reality itself seems to reorder around your declaration. The wisdom you carry feels both ancient and urgent, and it can't be countered with simple logic. This isn't a call to self-promotion. It's an invitation to alignment. There is a growing circle gathering, ready for a deeper kind of learning, one that isn't found in public forums or casual study. Those who want to rise to this frequency are finding the doors opening. What you carry becomes a beacon, summoning those who have been searching for their own activation. They arrived believing their careful plans and documents would tip the scale. Armed with prepared statements and stacked evidence, they thought to overwhelm you with sheer volume. Yet, the reality they met was not one they could have prepared for. A new paradigm had already taken root before they entered the room. It wasn't just the script that changed, it was the very stage. The tables had shifted, the boundaries redrawn, and what once seemed like certainty was now only the memory of confidence. Their best-laid plans withered, and the ground on which they stood crumbled beneath them, leaving only silence in the wake of what was supposed to be a victory. Each challenge placed in your path was like a test of resolve, and with each one, something inside grew stronger. You found new tools in old ruins, discovered strength in the places others had abandoned, and turned every slight into a stepping stone. Their arsenal, meant to bring you down, only fueled your transformation. This is a story that unfolds across every part of life. Whether in families, workplaces, friendships, or battles unseen, the principle remains. Every snare set becomes a spotlight, and every plot only polishes your armor. The old order is reversed. The one who once stood alone now stands as the judge of what remains. The tremors you set in motion are not just personal, they echo through larger movements. Across time and space, others are waking up, following signals only they can interpret, forming alliances that are invisible but unstoppable. It is a rising wave, not a single drop. There is a kind of justice at play here that goes beyond punishment. The words you speak, the decisions you make, become the tools by which falsehood is dismantled and truth restored. The line is drawn not in sand, but in unbreakable resolve, and every attempt to cross it is met with a force they cannot see but cannot deny. Gone are the days when deception could hide behind elaborate fronts. The fire that once seemed so distant is now a wildfire burning through every hollow structure. There's no mistaking the scent of transformation. Old habits are incinerated, and new ground is revealed beneath the ashes. Fear becomes their constant companion, not because you seek revenge, but because every move is now met with a certainty they cannot match. The balance has tipped. The anxiety once reserved for you has returned to sender, and the chain of cause and effect is unmistakable. Nothing they hid remains unseen. Every careless message, every forgotten document, every whispered confession now forms a tapestry of undeniable evidence. The searchlight of higher awareness makes secrecy obsolete. What was designed to be buried forever is now open ground. Hungry for timeless wisdom? Hit subscribe and feed your soul. You were never meant to wander blind. You were destined to illuminate the pattern and reveal the path. What was meant as a trap becomes a lesson, and each step you take forward widens the gap between confusion and clarity. Their restless nights are haunted by the knowledge that the reckoning is at hand. In legal struggles or battles for recognition, the advice is the same. Keep pressing, keep searching. There are details waiting to be discovered, and each layer brings more light to the truth. What begins as struggle always ends in exposure. The story is not about paperwork and penalties, but about the tides that shape worlds. The allies you gather, the prayers you offer, the wisdom you seek. They are the arsenal for a conflict that's not just about survival, but about the emergence of something greater. No matter how complex the web, truth always rises. The slow unraveling becomes a sudden reveal, and what was disguised as ordinary circumstance is shown to be part of a larger orchestration. There is a justice here that makes no announcements, but simply unfolds. Those who aligned with destructive forces find the ground shifting beneath them. The promises they made turn to burdens, and the agreements they forged become chains. The cost of betrayal is measured not in loss, but in the closing of every door they thought they controlled. When the moment comes, you are the one who stands calmly as the winds shift. The chaos around you is only proof that the plan cannot hold. The new day rises not with a roar, but with a gentle certainty that does not need approval to exist. Protection flows not from defenses built in haste, but from a calm refusal to stoop to the level of those who tried to provoke you. Each choice to act with integrity is another wall that keeps you safe, while their attacks exhaust themselves in vain. Everything in your journey has led here. Where most falter or flee, you remain. the one who can face contradiction, see through complexity, and hold steady while storms pass. The gift you carry is not a title, but a calling that is renewed with every sunrise. Celebrate, not because the fight is over, but because the victory has always been written in the language of your heart. You do not need to seek validation or demand recognition. What has been set in motion will not be stopped by any hand. Those who oppose the flow of truth will tire long before you do. While they chase shadows and scheme in secret, you hold the treasure they can never possess, a knowledge that comes not from possession, but from being rooted in what is real. The decree that shapes your path is not a sentence handed down from above, but a melody written in your bones. It cannot be muted or reversed. The trembling that runs through the old order is only the prelude to your song of freedom, and the echo of your awakening is only just beginning.